All right, and the next candidate that I'd like to welcome is Teresa Fox, who is running for the 6th District Congressional position, and that is, of course, in U.S. Congress. So, Teresa, you'd like to tell us about yourself and then questions and answers.
Thank you very much. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I'm Teresa Fox. I am from Bremerton, Washington, born and raised there. I am running against Emily Randall in the 6th Congressional District for the House of Representatives. That district is a large district. We've got 6 counties on the Olympic Peninsula: Kitsap, Mason, Jefferson, Grays Harbor, Clallam County, and South Sound Pierce area, Tacoma, Fife area. So large district. We've got a lot of different issues throughout the district. Like I say, I was born and raised in Bremerton, come from a family of small business owners, 3 generations of automotive businesses. I see firsthand how the economy is impacting the taxes, impacting our small business owners. I also see how the crime is impacting all of us, our small business owners, our citizens, even the people that are being affected by crime living on the streets. A little bit about myself and why I got into the race. I've got 30 years of regulatory compliance experience. I won't go into all the details, but I've got a lot of experience writing, stakeholdering, implementing legislation, and what was the other thing I was going to mention? Bringing projects, multi-million-dollar projects. I know how to budget, so that's something that's very important at the federal level. There's a lot that we can do to balance our budgets. So the reason that I got into this is because I have watched my region, my hometown, turn into a cesspool, frankly, over the past 40 years with our failed leftist policies. We have, as you guys are aware, I don't know how extent of the problem is up here on Bainbridge Island, and I'd like to hear about that, but all of our towns and cities throughout the peninsula are having problems with crime. Public safety is of huge importance to me. As I've gone through the region, during my work, my hobbies, I have been hearing for the past 3 years about public safety and its impact to all of us. You know, the other huge thing that I've heard about is taxes and those impacts to us. So as I've watched my own city go downhill, it triggered me to get into this race. I can no longer watch people dying in the streets while we do the same thing over and over again. We're going to throw more money at these programs like harm reduction and all these other things that aren't working for us. Another thing that's been happening over the past 40 years is our industries, particularly out on the coast with our timber industries, have been impacted by failed leftist policies. You know, we've shut down our timber industry for a large extent. In turn, that has shut down timber receipts that go to fund our public school system. We've shut down our national parks and our forests to a large extent. We've shut down our maritime industries out there on the coast, and that has impacted our economy. There's so many things that we can do from the federal level to reopen those things. Another cornerstone of my campaign is representation, and that dovetails into a lot of the things that are going out on the coast. We've got a representative who is representing special interests and self-interest. She is not representing the majority of the constituents in our district, and the incumbent is Emily Randall, if you're not familiar with who I'm talking about. But she's doing things out on the coast like land transfer acts that's taking public lands out of public control and wanting to transfer those into tribal control. Big egregious thing out there is the Dungeness spit, and they're going to take that and give it over to the tribe without any representation or public comment or stakeholdering out there. So the cornerstone of my campaign is this concept of actually representing folks that aren't being represented now. There's a lot of things that we can do. We can use technology to reach out to people, give them factual information, get input back, and represent the majority, just not these small interests. Another piece of the pie that I've been thinking about when I think about adequate representation is having an actual voice back in Congress. Somebody that has the intestinal fortitude to go knock on every single congressperson's door, every single senator's door in Congress and say, hey, This is what's happening in Washington state. We've got folks dying out here, and we have burdensome taxes, and we've got absolute tyranny going. So that's another piece of the pie. So back to the public safety issue, and I want to hear what your guys' top issues are as well. But public safety and that economic development, economic vitality are problems that I hear in 6 counties. There's a lot that we can do about it from the federal level. We can shut down sanctuary policies. We can move that legislation forward. We can balance the budget back in Washington, D.C. We can stop continuing resolutions. We can pass the SAVE Act, the Voting Act. So many things that we can do. We can direct federal dollars to law enforcement. Our state has the lowest per capita law enforcement rate in the country. We've got one county, Pierce County, that has the lowest in our state. That is impacting public safety. We've got long wait times in many areas for response. We just had a quadruple murder out on the Key Peninsula. 45 minutes for the deputies to get there. There was a lot of communication issues, not enough staff, not enough resources out there. If they had been there just minutes earlier, they could have prevented people from dying. So that's a huge issue. We've got problems too with a lot of our crimes are not being investigated. We've got, and Rick will talk about a lot about this, but there are so many things that we can do from the federal level to support these guys, our law enforcement officers, and get federal dollars directly into their hands, the guys that know best what we need in our communities and what is going to work for us. So many other things and so many other topics, but that's kind of in a nutshell what I'm running on and why I'm running. I want to run for us, give us all a voice, change things out here because we cannot continue to do the same thing that we've been doing.
Okay. All right, so at this point, who has a question for Teresa? Anybody? Okay, well.
Don't be afraid. I know I'm not a wallflower.
Okay, of course I have questions. So Teresa, I'm looking at the ballot, and the ballot shows that you are running against somebody who identifies themselves from the Trump Republican Party. Can you talk about that, please?
I would be happy to talk about that. So let me point out, number one, that I am endorsed by every Republican Party in 6 counties. Our Trump Republican that is running down in Mason County, I don't want to slam my opponents, but he's sort of a crackpot, and he has run 3 times, twice for state and once for, I think it was U.S. Senate. Anyway, he prides himself on not getting any donations and getting about 3% of the vote each time he runs. Got a crazy website with frogs on it, and MAGA for Washington, and he owns DogCon Auto and sells music online, and just sort of an interesting character. Lots of felonies in his past and lawsuits, and been fired from an agency. Not a viable candidate, not actively campaigning, not a threat. While we're on that topic, I will mention Macy Jones from Squim, who got into the race very late. She is a Code Pink activist, which is a Gaza supporter. She's a Hamas supporter, and she's running on that issue. So that's a challenge. It's going to be me and Emily in the primary. I've got the support of all 6 counties. Sheriff Dave Reichert has endorsed me as well, former Congressman, King County Sheriff.
Okay, so Emily, is being the incumbent, can claim success for this, that, and the other thing. What strategies are you going to use in your campaign to overcome her incumbency message?
So I'm going to continue to talk about adequate representation for the majority of us and continue to talk about her failures on the top 2 topics. She has done literally 0 in her first year and a half in office on our public safety issue. And I'm not kidding, 0. She's not even given any lip service to that topic. And she continues again to funnel money to the tribes and to NGOs. She's not looking out for our wallets either. Another thing that we can do at the federal level, and I'm kind of digressing, but we can haul folks like Bob Ferguson and Nick Brown into the House Oversight Committee and other oversight committees and have them investigated. We can also doge our budget out here. We can hold up federal dollars and require our state to comply with federal law before we send the money out here. So there's a lot that we can do on that.
Okay, who's got something? Did any questions occur to you now that we've had a couple of discussions? Yeah, Cheryl.
Well, I know often the Democrats start off with a acknowledgement, right, a land acknowledgement, but handing over our sovereign, what we now own, to tribal lands, which is like a different nation, right? Is there any law that prevents that?
So I dug into this very deeply. I read the Treaty of 1855. There's nothing in the treaty with the tribes out here in our state that requires us to do this. I also read carefully the Judge Bolt decision of 1974. Again, nothing that's requiring us to do that. The reason that Emily her stated reason for doing this is in the name of reconciliation, okay? So it's a choice that she's doing. There's nothing necessarily that prohibits her from introducing this legislation or passing it, but she does have to have the support of other members in Congress to get this through.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Lee, here's the mic.
I'm always taking tribes or foreign nations. And are foreign nations, is China allowed to contribute to your campaign? I mean,
well, theoretically, no. However, I will tell you that on the Democratic side of things, Emily Randall's major contributor is Act Blue, and that organization does get foreign money. They need to be investigated, probably a domestic terrorist organization, in my opinion. But that's the way that those kind of monies come into our country. Foreign countries are not allowed to contribute to our campaigns. Tribes, they can. And they actually do contribute with Emily.
Okay, other questions? Okay, so the message here is don't vote for the crackpot.
Yeah.
Vote for Teresa in the primary. If anybody would like to go get some more salad or a dessert, I'm going to give you a 1-minute break.
Alice, could I take 2 more seconds?
Sure.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there was a question, I think it was for Lance, about what are people feeling out there? And I just want to encourage everybody that 6 counties, all the folks that I have talked to, there is such a groundswell and such a spirit of patriotism and readiness for change out there. I really have this sense that this is the time we're going to be able to make some changes out here. And I just want you all to be encouraged about that.
And what about Bainbridge Island? I mean, what can we do here? Because I am really, it's so frustrating.
So that's another thing that I've been sensing lately is folks are afraid to talk to other folks. But if you can talk with them about the issues that are common ground, your public safety issues, your wallet, your pocketbook, how you're having more of a challenge buying groceries or affording your gas. But find those points where you have common ground and gently try and talk with them and see if you can offer them that the Republican Party has a different approach and what we're doing isn't working. But talking with people, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing.